All right, folks, we are back for another special interview, highly requested by our community members. A lot of big fans of this gentleman right here, Jordan from Waters Above, an incredible channel, and it's an absolute pleasure to connect with you again here today, brother.
I'm looking forward to it, man. It's been a while, and I'm really excited and grateful to have been connected back with you after some time.
Yeah, well, a lot sure has changed in that time, and I think that one thing I can note is that you've stayed the course. I feel like in my own right, I've stayed the course too. During the bear markets, we were still there, still talking about the fundamentals and how this market would eventually come back. We've came back and we've had some incredible rallies, and I think we were talking a little bit beforehand here about how even with incredible returns here just since November and really overextending ourselves, you got this crypto space that's still kind of yearning for more, right? A five bagger is not enough. We want a 10x, a 50x, a 100x, and we want it now. So we're going to talk about mindset, current events, what's happening here to get started. Then we will get your market analysis, XRP analysis, and then I'd also like to talk about your long-term wealth plan. What does Waters Above have planned 5 to 10 years out from now after XRP goes to the moon or wherever it's going to?
Sure.
So, brother, it's an absolute pleasure. Markets have been in complete chaos. What are you doing to keep your mind right these days?
Well, I think one of the number one things is like reminding myself of all the hard work that led to this moment. Like I don't know how much you're aware of my own personal journey, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But when I first got really deep into cryptocurrency and investing in general, I was spending like 14 to 16-hour days straight just on the charts and learning everything I possibly could. So that way, if anything ever happened, quote unquote, against me, that I only had me to look at in the mirror when it went the other way. And I started actually as a professional trader before I got into the education side of things. So I was pretty much in a reality where I needed to make the money from the trades because of what happened, lockdowns, e-commerce businesses that I had running. So it was one of those moments where I guess we just have to cut to it and say like I needed to man up and there was nobody to blame. And I feel like in the world of particularly like the YouTube culture and the influencer culture, there's always somebody to blame here, right? And I promised myself that if I could embody that essence, that I would hope that I carry that through my work here with Waters Above so that I'm not treated that way. But I think like, yeah, we're kind of back into that cyclical like blame game, whether it's people blaming Trump or people blaming what's going on with the Fed or people blaming what's going on with, so it's quite an interesting thing right now. And I guess I kind of laid that foundation to say that for me, it's more of the same stuff that I was thinking and the kind of posture that I held 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It's just really no different. And I think that comes through a lot of my live streams, which I don't do so often, but I used to do pretty regularly. And that's just remind myself that there's more to life than crypto. There's more to life than investing. And you have to, I think, kind of tap into these moments to take an inventory of what the priorities are, which is health, family, community, like the real people in your life. And I suspect the reason why it's not going well for a lot of people is because they worship this stuff, whatever it is, whether they worship the portfolio or they worship the company Ripple or they worship maybe some other influencer out there. And that's why it's very inhuman in a lot of ways, because that's not real life. These digital numbers on a screen that go up and down on TradingView is not real life. I mean, to some people, they might actually think it is, but that's why it's keeping people emotional. And when we started off a moment ago before we got going into this, you were mentioning like it's pretty evident in like comment sections, right? Like you can see how quickly from October, November, December, how much things have shifted into here now in March, April.
Yeah. And I want to make an important point, guys. So, Waters Above is keeping this mindset here, and he's going to keep that when we go into the bull run too. And that's why he's going to be a winner, right? That's why our community is going to win. And one of the things I got to commend you on, brother, is that you have stayed the course. One of the few content creators that I can come to, and you always have that calm, smooth voice. I'm someone who kind of wears it on my sleeve sometimes, and I get excited about some of these issues, right? But there's a clear distinction, I think, between getting a little bit excited, just trying to understand what's happening and how to position ourselves accordingly, versus worshiping. And so, Jordan, I thought you were part of the cult of Donald J. Trump. What do you mean you're not part of the cult? Or maybe you're worshiping Barron. Uh,
Yeah, it's so wild because shout out to Good Morning Crypto Show. I don't know if you're connected with 3T Warrior Academy
yeah, love those guys.
and those gentlemen, but yes, so I got connected with them on a surprise last minute. Like they invited me on while they were in the midst of doing a live stream on November 6th. So, we all went to sleep late November 5th, kind of like staring at our phones, being like, what every time he would win a state, the market would go up by like 3%. It was wild, right? And then we all woke up on November 6th, and obviously it is what it is. So me being the way that I am, as you addressed a moment ago, I like am very cautious when everyone's getting so overly like, yeah, it was just a little cringy for me how bullish and how like people were, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't want to sound disrespectful because I think some people take this very seriously when it comes to politics. And I know like obviously you were joking a moment ago and that's why I kind of want to play off that humor, but to remind people of where I stand with my investment thesis and where I stand like with my overall essence, right? So November 6th, they were quite happy, which whatever, I get it. I want people to feel happy whenever for whatever reason. Like, if you like the NFL and sports and your team wins the Super Bowl, like I don't want to like piss on your parade, but what I realized is how quickly everyone was getting euphoric. And I went on the show. They were I'm grateful they invited me on, even though I was like the Grim Reaper, because I immediately started sharing the same thesis that I had back when it was a year prior, which was we made it through the October solar eclipse. We're now moving into a lunar cycle by March of 2025, which we just moved through.
Hmm.
And that's going to be your big bullish time frame. And I said that back, I mean, a year before the election. We're talking about 1 year before the election. So for me, it was just surprising to see how an exoteric event, like a popular event on the world stage, was able to trigger the reality for people that was already unfolding right in front of all of our eyes, whether he won or didn't. And a lot of people gave me a lot of shit back then when I made the video like the week prior that said it doesn't matter who wins because it doesn't. It matters about where's the money coming from and where's the money flow, where's the global liquidity cycles at. So I know you probably are much more aware of this than most, and I know your community is probably savvy enough to get this. And now that we've seen such a pullback on a narrative that he used as part of his process for us voting for him, it's fucking mind-blowing how people are actually forgetting that. And they're like now ultra bearish and blaming the same guy they were worshiping on November 6th. So I don't know what to tell people. Really, it's my way of just being like, once you get numb to a lot of these things, which I think we should start to become more numb to, whether it's winning or losing in this game of investing, when you start to become more numb to it, I think it clears up some of that energy for you to apply it to other places that are more of the success mindset and perhaps more of like the generational wealth mindset. And also they're much better for just regulating your central nervous system. You know how many people like they just make these very emotional leverage trades and then they get wiped out and it's like, man, we're pretty much in a full-blown sentiment reset. So perhaps we could talk a little bit about that because I'm sure you've tapped into some things recently about what's going on that I haven't. I've kept up with a couple of your videos since we've last chatted, and I know you touch on things in probably a much more sophisticated way than I would, which I honor. I'm more the esoteric, investor where I'm looking at these things that are going on with astrology and numerology, etc. But yeah, I feel like we've had a full-blown sentiment reset. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Well, I love what you said. And for folks that already are wondering, what are we talking about? Eclipses here. Just lock in, sit
Yeah, I
down,
could I could break it down more a little bit in a
grab
moment if
yourself
you'd
a
like.
cup of coffee or an adult beverage, whatever you're sipping on. But we're going to run you through this. And this is very important because what I've come to find is that when your esoteric analysis is lining up with the technical analysis and it's lining up with current events that I know are going to happen, just like we know these lunar events or these astrological events are going to happen. And the old quote, right, is millionaires don't study astrology, billionaires do. And you've spoken on this a lot, and I've tapped into it too, not as much as you do, but it's very important to understand that these elites are harvesting our energy. So, with the sentiment shift, that's exactly what this is, right? We go from complete bullish euphoria, and then Trump actually does what he said he was going to do and restructure some trade deals. and we go into full panic. And my sentiment and my disdain for listening to the suits cry recently. I mean, to me, it's just pathetic. The stock market was already overvalued, and we have
You're
to
right.
recognize that. And they were waiting, and they love to be able to blame the big bad orange man. And I wanted to make a point too on, you talk about we worship one side, we worship the other side. Is our team winning or losing? This is something that I've tried to hammer into my community. Whether you like Trump or don't like Trump, the greatest transfer of wealth in world history is taking place. So don't let your opinion of one man stop you from taking advantage of that. But even for those that do worship him, if you just sit on your ass and don't do anything, you're going to get left behind too. Trump's not coming to save you, right?
Yeah.
It's time to save yourself. And so, yeah, let's talk about this sentiment shift. I think that it's really exposed. I mean, just the shakeup. And that's for me, where I'm a fan of we need to rein back in government, get them out of our lives. And I come from a, if you want to put a label on me, libertarian standpoint.
Hmm.
And my standpoint is, and my saying is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness on a level playing field. Is it a pipe dream? Maybe. But that's the end goal for me. And I think that this disruption from Trump is really exposing that overvalued stock market. And it's showing who was over leveraged, like you said, way too much leverage. And
Right.
that's getting cleaned up. And boy, does it feel good to just be holding a big bag of spot XRP and other, good fundamental
Yeah,
positions
that's right.
because we're not over leveraged. We just sit back and enjoy the show. But yeah, let's talk about this sentiment shift that you've seen recently.
Yeah, and I mean, it started with me just realizing that people that were deeply embedded in the crypto sphere are now back at like this moment where they're, oh, I wish I didn't give so much credit to this one guy about the infinite bull run we were about to enter the day of his inauguration, right?
Mhm.
Because ever since the inauguration, we've been on a slide to the downside for everything, pretty much. And again, it's not out of blame. It's just out of like, isn't it ironic? And also the launch of Trump coin, I think pretty much seals the deal on this momentary micro top that we have. So I would love to get deeper into it, but I think just as reminders, I feel like we're kind of in this C19 crash moment recently. Like I think what we have just experienced, not comparing it to 100%, but I think it has like the smell of the
Oh
particular
yeah.
market
It's
reset, the
very
market
close
sentiment.
by the numbers too. Like
Yeah,
as
and the
far as
timing.
circuit breakers and everything, very close.
Yeah,
Mhm.
timing too. Like we're looking at all the major indices pretty much topping at the exact same dates. And one thing that I find really hilarious is if you look at the lows lately on Bitcoin and you were to mirror them, or you just look at all the lows on Bitcoin this year and then look at all the highs on Bitcoin last year, they're pretty much the same. It's like as above, so below, perfect lows and highs because we bottomed around like I think March 10th, 11th this time. Then we topped March 10th through 13th last year. Then we came down, we went back up into the total solar eclipse, which was called the Great American Eclipse. Incredibly symbolic because we just passed through the 1 year anniversary of that. And that was like the pivot date for the stock market. But, anyways, long story short, is then we go up into the we bottomed around the 7th and then we made a top last year around the 7th, 8th of April. So it's kind of showing me that oof, like they're doing something ritualistically by the dates. We should know
Mhm.
that. Like, but furthermore, there's something to this where if this pattern continues out, that actually could help us really like give us a compass as to what's going to unfold over the rest of the year. And one thing that's kind of scaring me a little bit about the sentiment shift is once everyone becomes ultra bearish, then we start to see a lot of narratives about like relief rallies or dead cat bounce or bull run is over, bear market has started, like the extremes come back.
Mhm.
And even the relief rally thing, which I'm very much a proponent of at this time, because markets don't just continue to just drop, drop, drop. And we could build on that a little bit more. But one thing I just want to share with the sentiment side of things is even relief rally is now being screamed like through every analyst on earth and it's now even worrying me where I'm like, ooh, I think they're going to give us something that's very intricate, choppy, like a very strange corrective structure that will be
Mhm.
very tough to navigate as the top structure was very difficult to navigate. Like if you look at any chart, especially these top altcoin charts, pretty fascinating correction on Ethereum. Like it's just been continuously pressured to the downside, like big correction. And it didn't even get close. Well, I mean, it kind of got close to all-time highs, but we didn't see it retest all-time highs like we did with Solana. And then we see XRP like barely break into price discovery, then pretty decent correction. But as you said earlier, like anyone who has a large XRP bag is doing better than most. But the Bitcoin structure I haven't seen before, where we've just been continuously falling now, going on 3 months with no relief rally in the process. That's strange because usually Bitcoin has this like 30-day correction, sharp rebound. And then if it wants to make a lower high, kind of like a bull trap, then we would get prepared for a deeper correction, like a dead cat bounce scenario. But that has not been the case. It's like just perpetual month after month after month slide to the downside. So this is showing me that this is big institutional level manipulation, plus probably hedge funds. All of them are getting wiped out right now, which is good. I agree with what you said before. I think it's like I could just double down on what you said, that all of this euphoria that we got from the exoteric event of the election, it showed that this market can get into a really unsustainable, overly valued market, like with the Mag 7. And then now we're just kind of going back to reality, but
Yeah.
the speed of which we're correcting is what shakes investors up, and it's what makes the sentiment so trashy right now. So that's kind of like the perfect time to start getting bullish again. Like I can't necessarily say with 100% certainty that a bottom is in, but when you see these levels of extreme fear go pretty much across the board in everything except for like gold, then yeah, we're pretty much there. I feel like we're very, very close. April into early May should be a bottoming structure.
Yeah, and I think a great example of a sentiment shift, folks are thinking, well, is that me? Am I in that position? And if it is you, it's okay. The first step is acknowledging that you have a problem, right? And it's not just you, it's the billionaires. When I talk about the suits crying, I'm talking about Bill Ackman, billionaire hedge fund manager. And he did the same thing during the 2020 crash, where he
Yeah,
went on, he was crying. Well, he was actually short and he profited a boatload of money. Now, this time around, he goes from blaming Trump, blaming Howard Lutnick and members of the cabinet and whatever, and oh, how bad this is. And then it just takes a couple days and then he flips and now he's a supporter of Trump and everything that's going on. And it's like all it took was one, tweet that the tariffs were paused and we add 5 trillion back to our stock
right.
market, right? And Bill Ackman's cheering on now. So don't be a Bill. Don't be a Bill Ackman, okay? We want to remain. And just like you said, with everybody getting so bearish lately over the past month, I've talked about this in some of my most recent videos. The broader community out here on YouTube and X, they didn't even want to hear, they didn't even want to see somebody like myself that still had a smile on his face, that was optimistic, that was saying, hey, the corrective structure is playing out. In fact, I warned about the downside pressure into Liberation Day. That's what we expected. That's
Hmm.
what we're getting. And folks don't understand how we can still remain bullish. It's because we're at the end of the correction and this thing comes and goes in waves. And what we've seen is that a lot of new money came into this space since November, right? That was the
Right.
euphoria. You got new money coming in, and you can tell who
A
invested
lot of
just
a
in the
lot of
past.
unsophisticated money too. I'm sorry to cut you off, but just like a lot of people who waited. Sorry, continue.
And that's my point, is you can tell who's in this game in just 2 3 months, and we all start somewhere, and you just happen to hop into one of the most euphoric moments in cryptocurrency space, in the cryptocurrency history. And so understand that, hone in on fundamentals right now and find real conviction plays, because this is going to bounce back. And we're going to talk about XRP in particular, but just one point on XRP strength. I like to remind folks it took the largest liquidation event in the history of crypto on February 3rd to get XRP back below $2, down to $1.70. Last week, it has taken what is probably the greatest trade war that we've had in recent times to get XRP to go back down to $1.60. And I've been joking about how it's literally going to take aliens coming down for XRP to go back below $1 or something like that, right? And I've been joking about how I'm going to buy the dip on the alien invasion, right? I'm going to be buying that dip because it will bounce back. And so I think that you've made some good points here about how that sentiment shift really you need to get away from the leverage, get away from the hype, get away from the doom. Over the past month, nobody wanted to get my good fundamental analysis and see my excitement. They wanted the doom and gloom. And I noticed that that's what a lot of other influencers were putting out. And I think that that is getting a lot of people off guard here for a relief rally that is coming in.
Hmm.
To your point, it does scare me a little bit because it doesn't feel like we're in the clear just yet, but we're close. And,
Yes.
I've been calling for XRP to go into price discovery around this time too, right? I had seen your analysis, and like I said, when the stars align with the current events, and those events that we have for XRP, like the case concluding, all that SEC Chair Paul Atkins being
Hmm.
confirmed, these are events in the real world that we can match up with the astrological events, and we can coincide that with our technical analysis that's finishing up that corrective structure that some TA experts saying that the ABC correction's finalizing right now
Hmm.
or getting very close. And so, we're right there. We're right there. And I think most importantly, folks are going to have to hone in on their plan because just like people are crying right now, they're going to be crying when this bull run does return and they don't take profits when XRP goes up to $7 or $8 and then crashes back down to 3 or whatever it's going to do, right?
Right.
So what are we honing in right now on our timeline with these markets where we're at? We've gone through these eclipses, and I'm sorry to go a little bit long here, but I just want to give you your flowers, your kudos, because for folks who don't know, back when I used to trade futures, this is a couple years ago before I got kicked off of KuCoin, I traded and mostly shorted Bitcoin, and the primary indicator that I'd watched for was psychology, and then you taught me to look at these moon phases, and I basically just used the moon phases and the shifts in energy coinciding with the psychological, the mindset of the
Hmm.
broader market. And I was able to just nail Bitcoin shorts time after time after time again. Now, when I went long XRP, I would get wrecked every time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my program on shorting Bitcoin, it worked so well. And that was part of your analysis. We were able to predict that something was coming up on November 8th, 2022. Why? Because it was the back to back eclipses, right? We didn't know who was going to go down. We didn't know who was going to be sacrificed. It turned out to be Sam Bankman Fried with FTX.
Yep.
And so your analysis has been spot on. And that's why I'm so glad to touch base with you again today. But where are we at?
Yeah, man. I mean, first of all, I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. And if I could help anyone with the basic stuff, in a world that could be quite confusing, such as astrology, I think that's a win in my world because it is quite a complicated art. And I try to actually avoid the complexities of astrology. So with this full moon, new moon, eclipse stuff that I've been sharing for the past maybe 3 years or so, I feel like it's been a very simplified and effective methodology to assume pivots in markets, or even if you wanted to look at month to month moves. I've been dialing it in even more lately with quarter moons and adding in elements like how things are on solstices and equinoxes. I don't want to complicate things for people, but I do have, if you go to watersabove.com/free, it's a free course. Go check it out. It teaches you how to use the moon cycles that Zach brought up. So, definitely something that could be very helpful for people if they have no idea where to get started. I don't know if you could see my chart that I'm sharing right now,
I
brother.
can. But I got to
Okay,
say, brother,
beautiful.
it just cracks me up because I was just laughing at I call my TA, I call Doofus Moron TA because I just make a kind of a joke about it. I keep it so simple. And I laugh at these guys that have 5,000 different indicators. In my program of just watching the moon and watching market psychology, it worked so dang well. But
Yeah,
continue, sorry.
I think sentiment is actually teaching me the most now because I think indicators are getting even t more tough because of how quickly things can shift, like the volatility, you know? So even things like trying to catch a bearish divergence or like an inverse head and shoulders, it's not going to work, I think, moving forward. And I think we're going to have to kind of change up the way that we analyze markets. And I will continue to refine over time. It's funny, I've had people that'll be like, "Oh, you've changed the way you've done things, or you're doing this." It's like, of course, that's what science is. Like that's what being an alchemist is. Like you have to adjust as you experiment and have this awareness that everything, including markets, operate as a extension of Mother Nature. And for those people that don't believe me, like, well, it just is what it is. Like if you look at a bull run, it's a very short, momentary explosive kind of gift to the world. And that's what fruit does on the trees outside. Like you don't just see 365, 24/7. There's always fruit available. No, it has a harvest season where it's going through the process of giving what it's, been working on during that whole 8, 9, 10 month time frame. Anyways, don't want to complicate things here, but I'm looking at a chart that I've shared with the world probably going back a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, and it's just phased out every move on XRP. And I haven't been showing this too much lately because I feel like we don't need to see this. Nobody wanted to see this when we were here.
Hmm.
Nobody wanted to see this when we were here. And now everyone's saying that this is wrong, even though it was being shared back here when we were tracking the exact amount of days in the breakout phase. So let me just teach your audience really quickly what we're looking at. It's phase one would be the maximum buy pressure, or what we would call a buying climax in Wyckoff method. Here would be your buying climax in the 2018, early 2018 cycle. Then you have an exaggerated sell-off to an extreme low, typically narrative driven. That would be your phase two. Here, and by the way, this isn't Elliott wave theory. This is just me doing my own thing. I'm trying to simplify for everyone what's going on here. You have your exaggerated sell-off narrative driven for the C19 crash. V-shaped recovery pushes you into phase three, which is a automatic rally or an automatic reaction. It's perfect because you see this Christmas tree top vibe. Well, remember what was going on over here, the beginning of the SEC versus Ripple case, and XRP still went up 1,000% in the midst of all of this. So this just had to do with what? It had to do with liquidity, had nothing to do with what's going on with the narrative. Then we move down into phase four, which would be your return back to some sort of structural support, which here it made a lot of sense because that was your attempted support here before breakdown into a deeper correction. And then you come up into this sideways, like really arduous horizontal trading range that makes everyone hate their lives. This is actually 10 times worse than all of this shit
Right.
because no one wants to live through a trading range that's about 15 cents in both directions over and over and over again for almost 500 days. So what was insane about this analysis was when we tracked the amount of time that it was stuck within this horizontal trading range, it was 476 days or like about 67 weeks. And here it was 69 weeks. It was 489 days, almost an identical amount of time that it stretched out. Then we had the release, which breaks above phase three. As you can see here, we had the release and we had the same thing happen. Now, what's really bullish about what we're doing this time around, from a technical perspective, what was once resistance is now being backtested as a support, and it's being backtested as a support at a key level, the top of the golden pocket, the 786 fib. This correction that we just got, like you guys are hearing this first, by the way. I haven't even covered this in a public YouTube video. This correction that we just got is backtesting the most important level if we are going to maintain this overall bullish structure and a true push into price discovery. Now, because I haven't been editing this chart too often, it says we are here, which technically kind of is true. But what I think is going on is the length of the structure that we're going to be faced with in this moment today will be much more like this. Now, that's actually to be expected because if we were to look at this cycle from one to, let's just say from one to this phase right here, which would be the a price discovery breakout where XRP is like finding how high can I go. That took about 1,200, let's call it 1,300 days. Well, 1,300 days was here, man.
Hmm.
So we know that this has been extended quite a bit. Why? Well, because we had a completely different narrative and a lot more hype in this phase for DeFi and NFTs and meme coins and just a different basket of stuff. And then they could blame the SEC case all they want, but XRP still went up 1,000%. We still have
And we weren't
altcoins.
even on exchanges available for some folks, right? How do you have liquidity coming in when folks can't even invest in it, right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it made that 1000% move. While a lot of altcoins this cycle thus far haven't even made 1000% moves from their extreme lows to the current peak that we just experienced back in January. So, anyways, I don't want to confuse people here. I want to stick to this. And the timing of this is something that we could consider where I don't want to call this the actual peak. I think this was the peak. And this in Wyckoff, this little move up here into around January 13th would be called like an upthrust. And I don't want to say it's moved into distribution just yet because we've back tested a key level. So to keep our everything stupid simple, we have this move from the peak over to the actual peak, or where all the buying pressure is exhausted. It took about 231 days. If we were to measure the same amount of time, 231 days brings us to late July. Now,
Mm.
one thing that I was teaching everyone a year ago before I released this project called the Crypto Decoding Blueprint was I was trying to teach people how to time the market cycles using astrology, but particularly focusing on the eclipse cycles. Okay. I don't want to go into too much detail, but that was released in the beginning of June of 2024. This was how, whatever, 4 or 5 months before the election. So we were in the midst of this chop sideways when I was teaching people this. And a year total from this moment, at least over a year
Mm.
from this moment, I was teaching that what we're moving into is going to be a little bit different structurally because we have a lot of negative energetics ahead in this particular year of 2025. Why? Because we have total lunar eclipses. As you said a little bit earlier about the Sam Bankman-Fried thing, well, the crash of Terra Luna happened on a total lunar eclipse, and the crash and arrest of Sam Bankman-Fried was all tied around a total lunar eclipse. This time around, what did we see with the total lunar eclipse? We saw complete market devastation, right? Everything breaking down.
And
Well,
what
we
date
have
was that here recently?
March 13th into 14th,
Right.
which
Right.
was this I you can't really see it on this chart, but it was a push down and starting to show a lot of weakness on XRP, but Bitcoin was already breaking down by then.
Yep.
Now, we didn't see any isolated events specifically to like an arrest or like something completely fall apart, but the point here is that we did start to see that stuff show up in late December into January with the Hawk Tuah girl and with the Trump coin launch and with Melee, excuse me, and all this other bullshit, you know? So it was happening around this moment anyways. Then the energetics is what really sinks us down and confirms that all of that stuff is like it's going to happen.
Mhm.
Then we have one happening in September 7th. So I'm just kind of setting the foundation for everyone. I really hope everyone's taking notes on this because this is powerful stuff that I've been teaching for some time and a lot of people forget it. Why was I excited to share with you that we could be moving up into late July? Well, because I've been teaching that we're likely going to have our next major move for all of the crypto market into July, August, and I shared this information over a year ago. In that crypto decoding blueprint, I shared it as a theory called the double peak cycle. So that would not be a double top. That would mean we have something like this, where we have one phase, chop, and we have another phase.
Mhm.
Bitcoin did this back in 2013.
Mhm.
Dogecoin did this in the last cycle. I could quickly show you so you guys can see what I mean. I could show you what Bitcoin did back in 2013, which was also, by the way, the year of the snake. Very important because we're in the year of the snake now. So you see this. We have a initial peak, then we have chop, huge correction, second peak. Then we'll quickly look at Dogecoin. Doge did this last cycle, which was fucking crazy. We moved up here just like XRP did when? In 2017.
That
This is
looks
why I've been
exactly like the 2017 fractal for
exactly.
XRP.
Exactly. And this is what I've been teaching people. Like, I think Doge is a much bigger part of this conversation than people want to entertain. And my crypto decoding blueprint teaches people what it is. It's tied to the planets. So XRP is tied to Mercury. Why? Because Mercury is the fastest moving planet. Mercury is tied to finance. It's where we get the word merchandise from, or commerce. What is XRP here to do? Cross-border payments, right? So it's all about travel. It's all about movement, right? Well, that's what Mercury is symbolic of. That's why it has the eagle wings on its head and on its feet. It's known for being the fastest planet, just like XRP is known for its speed. So Dogecoin would be tied to its own planet, which I believe is Mars. This is why Elon, the Mars guy, is always tied to Doge. This is all symbolic,
I
okay?
see. I'm following. I'm following. That's good.
Bitcoin is created by Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi is Saturn, father time, father blockchain, father algorithm, who creates or makes makes the idea of Bitcoin, which would be Jupiter, the king of the gods. This is why when Bitcoin dominance is high, excuse me, you have everything kind of like working off the energetics of Bitcoin. It's why we haven't had an alt season yet. Literally, why we haven't had an alt season yet. Because Bitcoin is the king of the gods, the Jupiter. Now, that's not me trying to say that one is better than the other, because these are all deities. These are all gods. They all serve their purpose, and we're in disharmony right now on the world stage. And I hope I'm not taking up too much time with this information.
Well, no, you're not. And I would just say what that translates to in the charts and the markets is people are realizing, well, maybe I shouldn't be holding 20 different shit coins. And I need to be back in Bitcoin. I need to be back in, tier one assets in this space. And so I think that, it aligns with what we're seeing right now in the markets. And people are wondering, why isn't my Pepe coin moving? And this explains it.
Yeah, precisely. So there are reasons why meme coins move when they move, and there is the meme aspect of this whole thing too, and it ties back into mythology. And I don't want to get too complicated with that there, but please understand, everyone who's listening to this right now, that we're in something called mimetic warfare, all of us on this earth right now. Everything is a meme. Hence why Trump, the president of the leader of the free world, has leveraged on the meme of it all, and he's sucked in pretty much the most vulnerable people, the people with the least experience at the worst time, because it's all about just turning everything into a business move. And it's not his fault. I believe he has handlers that tell him what to probably just orchestrate everything for him. And he's here to play golf and have fun. At the end of the day,
Is he
were you
the
going to say
meme
something?
god or is Elon the meme god? That's my question for you.
Well, I think it's funny because if we look at that double peak cycle here for Doge, that was the whole narrative right at that time. But if you
Right.
look at the exact date that he went live on SNL, that was the top of Doge. It did not go higher for the rest of the cycle. You want to know something fucked up? If you go back to this bear market over here into 2022, if you look at the exact date of Satoshi Nakamoto's 47th birthday, it was the last day that Bitcoin traded at 47K for the rest of the bear market, all the way until when? The day the Bitcoin ETF was approved and launched. That's fucking wild.
I
So
remember
people
you
were,
sharing that too.
yeah, people were challenging me on this too, thinking that it's like I'm making this up, but like there's something very powerful about Satoshi's birthday. And we just saw recently on the April 7th date, the 4/7 date, Bitcoin crashed to 74K. Donald Trump is the 47th president. Silver is 47 on the periodic table. This is all part of a big script. He's calling this the golden age. So gold is very, very important to decode at this time. It's not even a joke anymore. If you go on the White House's official X account, it talks about the golden age in their description. Why are they saying this? Well, you guys got to study. You got to look back into what happened with gold in 1933. Just study, guys. Just continue to study, and I'll do my best to simplify the decodes for everyone to not make it super complicated. But this is my system. I try to not go above and beyond. I'm not showing you astrology charts right now. I'm literally just kind of taking common sense and applying it accordingly and doing my best to make sense of why these assets are doing what they're doing. But getting back to this chart, the fact that this time frame
Real
from this
quick,
peak.
Jordan, real quick. I just
Yep.
want to make a point too for everybody because this is what we need to watch out for. I remember back when Elon was set to go on SNL, I was pounding my table saying, guys, this is going to be a top signal. Mark my words, by the time Elon starts his opening monologue, that chart's going to be coming back down. And that's exactly what happened on Doge. So when we see Jim Cramer shilling us XRP here at the end of this year, next year, Jordan's going to tell us when XRP is going to top out to the exact day, right, Jordan? Uh,
Yeah.
but that's going to be the day that Jim Cramer goes on CNBC and tells us how to buy XRP.
Yeah. I love all these guys. Like everybody's been like trashing this dude like with the inverse Kramer and all this, but I'm like, you guys got to remember that homie signed a contract probably back in the late 70s or 80s to be this guy, to be the Jim Cramer guy that you see today. Like you, just like Trump signed paperwork a long time ago that he will become the president of the United States, and then he'll lose the next election, like quote unquote lose, and then he'll win again, and then he'll usher in the age of AI and blockchain technology, and everyone in the 4 years prior to that moment will think that he's actually going to get rid of all that stuff and bring the dollar back and physical cash will become more powerful. No, everyone will just wake up to the fact that there's a script running this world. We don't have to dislike these guys. We don't have to distrust them either. Just look at them as what they are, which is professional. They're like wrestlers. You know, I grew up watching like Macho Man Randy Savage go against Hulk Hogan. Like that's what we're watching right now.
Yeah.
It's fun. It should be entertaining to you. I think like Donald Trump is extremely entertaining, and Jim Cramer is entertaining. Take it as entertainment, but don't take it as what they're telling you and the sentiment is something you should follow. It's probably quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to mention with what happened a couple days ago with Trump tweeting on or whatever, Truth Social, what do they call it over there?
Yeah.
Truthing?
Post
What's
or
the
yeah.
verb?
Yeah. Yeah.
So he shared that like basically you should buy now, right?
Right.
The market did move up what 5 trill in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that insider trading? Like what's going on with that? I'm not sure. But jokes aside,
Hey, don't, I just keep telling folks, don't fight it. Just get on the right side of it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
precisely it. Precisely it. So we were looking at this time frame between peak to peak, and it's about 231 days. I don't want to go too deep into like the power of that particular number, but it's showing us around late July, and I think this is sensible outlook. Although when I look at seasonality across the board, July isn't always that great unless we have a relief rally into May that's a sell-off in May where we actually do have a move up, but it doesn't like close green. This happens all the time, by the way. You hear sell in May, walk away, which I am not calling for, but I'm trying to let people know we just had a fucked up crash into early April. Don't be surprised if we get relief into the mid-May timeframe. And don't be surprised that we do actually continue to just chug on up to the upside, but it doesn't feel good because it will just be mini corrections along the way. This like straight line breakout thing, I don't know if we'll get again
Right.
unless we get the confirmation of Bitcoin dominance breaking down at least below this 58% level, which seems to be a trigger, which was at least a trigger point back at the end of 2024. So I could take this one step at a time, but I do feel that Bitcoin dominance, it's the reason I brought up this chart. Bitcoin dominance has been holding strong on this parallel channel. Like nobody can deny this. And it's been going on for quite a bit. You know, we're looking at 750 days, just continuously getting rejected at this resistance line. And we did get this one moment, probably the longest moment so far since 2 years ago, where we were actually below the support line, and that was about as good as it got for our alts. But now we've just rallied right back up to a higher high. So this is holding a reversal structure immaculately, and we're not even fucking close to the top of what we hit in the alt season back in early 2018 or the one that we got back last cycle. So you can see these circles here.
Mm.
Bitcoin dominance likes to get above 70%. We're at 63. So I will firstly say to everyone who's been following my work, my biggest miscalculation of this cycle was not the correction in that we just experienced. I called the correction into March total lunar eclipse. This has been filmed for years. My miscalculation, and where I admit I was very wrong, was that I thought we would have an alt season before that correction. I thought we would actually have a breakdown in Bitcoin dominance. That was a miscalculation. And
Mm.
now that I'm looking at this chart, and how clean this channel has been into a technical area of the golden pocket. And the fact that our resistance is coming in at a level where we had both confirmed alt seasons, it's just, I was naive to the fact that we did not have Bitcoin dominance topped. There was nothing saying it was topping, and that we had more room to go for Bitcoin dominance. Why? Another big miscalculation, I think, on my part. I wasn't I wasn't keeping up with the shit coins. I admit I don't fucking care about Hawk Tuah coin. I just don't. I don't care when like your favorite D-list celebrity is making a meme. Like I'm sorry guys. So because I'm so maybe I'm like too like Grandpa Joe about this market where I just stay away. Like it's
Yeah.
all toxic to me. I think that's what led to my miscalculation, to be 100% honest and vulnerable with everyone. And
Mm.
that's why now that I'm looking at things a little bit more clearer and I'm seeing the strength in XRP, I'm seeing ETH dominance drop to same extremes that we saw in the last cycle before it went parabolic. It's showing me that like we're actually just kind of doing more of the same. And July, August does feel like a time where we should start to see this Bitcoin dominance drop down. But I must say that we would need across the board relief. So something needs to happen with the Fed. Something needs to happen with these tariffs, whatever the fuck they're doing right now. And overall, I think we need to have maybe some stimulus because
Mhm.
how many more months can we go? Right? I would love to maybe know some of your thoughts on that, just from like a human perspective. Like, how many more months can we go with this level of cost in goods and rents are just getting higher and higher.
Mhm.
People are getting laid off. Like, it's not a really prime environment to be expecting parabolic advances. So
Right.
some event has to happen that will provide like a FOMO moment. And I know Trump and his power right now with his spell casting is good enough,
Mhm.
but then there still needs to be proof of where the money's coming from. So the thing that I would look at is the M2.
Yep. Yep. And I'll add, I mean, I think that this is where we can bounce off of each other because what I'm looking at and what I have marked on my timeline, this is a timeline that I put together over a month ago too, right at the beginning of March, was breakdown into Liberation Day. And then we have catalyst of SEC Chair Paul Atkins getting confirmed, SEC versus Rebel case settlement. Those are specific to XRP. But then the next date that I have on the calendar is May 6th, 7th, which is the next Fed meeting. So barring them coming and doing an emergency rate cut before then, that would
Mm,
line up with kind of your analysis. If we do get that first rate cut in May, then that would be one lever that they can pull that's going to be assigned to the market to return. But then, like you said, returning to quantitative easing and getting that liquidity injection, we got the first signal. And I was warning folks about this in the March Fed meeting. I said, watch for them to say that they're reducing the amount of quantitative tightening that they're doing. And obviously, you kind of have to decode the Fed speak and understand what that means. What that means is their balance sheet, they were reducing it, they were tightening up their balance sheet. Now they're reducing the amount which they're tightening. So they're not going
right.
full blown money printer go burr again, but they're reducing the level at which they're tightening, which to me was the signal we're about to flip. And so I think that you're right. The market's now getting frustrated with Trump. I think they're also getting frustrated with the Fed. And bringing it back, to the beginning, like I had said before, and my community knows this very well. I've been talking about how you can get as excited about President Trump and his policies and what he's doing, as excited as you want to. We still have that overlooming debt crisis, that deficit on a yearly basis. We have over 150 trillion in unfunded liabilities. That doesn't get fixed overnight, right?
Yep.
And the economy that he took over was fake. I've been talking about and pounding the table since 2022 when we were in a technical recession that we were in a period of depressed growth. And one of the things that I got wrong was how far the stock market was going to be able to rally and
Right.
disconnect between Main Street.
Right.
Now you got the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying, hey, Wall Street's had a great time and a good party. You guys can still have a decent time, but it's time for Main Street to join in on the celebration. And so that's what their policies are set to do here. And I think now it's a matter of positioning yourself accordingly. You have to stay liquid. And that's why in 2022, my recession to do list, the number one thing I said, Jordan, before I said buy XRP, well, I never tell anybody to buy anything, but before I said what investments to look at,
Buy Hawk to a coin.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Trump coin. No, I said get your income right. Focus on income first because you're going to need liquidity so that you can survive the inflation that's not going away, right? They said that inflation was transitory and all that crap.
Hmm.
And then this disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street, that's the real divide. And that's one of the things that I got wrong was how far the stock market would go up. But when the market comes back down and shits the bed here recently, it is no surprise to me because it was already way above fundamental value. And what these markets are doing is bringing us, closer to or further away from fundamental value. So the stocks are coming back down towards fundamental value. And I think that you're seeing assets like Bitcoin, XRP, and others, they're moving towards fundamental value. And I would like to get into, you said, the items here that could maybe flip us. It looks to me like they're right around the corner. So I've kind of honed in this timeline that, you know, we're almost in the clear and we're about to reverse. I want to get your take though on these order books and the inflows and the outflows. Something that I've been watching more closely in my analysis ever since November when XRP started to actually move significantly is I started to watch these order books. And what I've been observing, it's a equation that I came up with. It's very simple. It's just a market cap multiplier. And basically what it tells us is how little liquidity needs to come in or go out of an asset to actually move that market cap. Market cap is something that's been so misunderstood, and many people
Hmm.
use it to say that XRP can't go to said price. And what I'm proving in this equation, in this analysis, is that it is not a 1-to-1 ratio. Meaning, for XRP to go to a $2 trillion market cap and be worth 20 or 30 bucks, we do not need 2 trillion of inflows to come in. I think this is very important for everybody to understand.
Mm.
Some of the market cap multipliers I've been calculating have been ranging from 50 to 500. One example of this is when Trump put out the tweet on Truth Social that XRP was going to be in the reserve. XRP's market cap grew by 44 billion in the course of like 6 hours. Price grew by 80 cents, and the market cap grew by 44 billion. But we only had about, I think, 20 million of inflows, and so it equates to a market cap multiplier that was about 500.
Right.
And so the reason why I bring this up, and I'd like to get your kind of take on this analysis too, is we have to ask where and when are the buyers going to come in? And I think that your analysis is telling us that the buyers aren't quite ready to load up, but they're getting ready. One other thing that we can add to that is the ETFs that are right around the corner. And I think that the ETFs, not only did they disrupt the Bitcoin cycle by taking Bitcoin to a new all-time high before the
Hmm.
halving last year, that
Yep.
was right after the ETFs went live, right? In
Yep.
similar fashion, I think that the ETFs for XRP going live later this year, second half of this year maybe, that's going to inject significant amount of liquidity. And what I'm proving with this order book analysis is that it doesn't take much to move XRP. We get 10 billion of inflows. We could easily see XRP's market cap growing by 3 to 500 billion with ease, right? So, um, with that being said, are you watching the order book flows much these days? Or is that part of your analysis? And
I
can we hone in on the XRP analysis right now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't particularly spend too much time looking at the order books. One of the tricks that I've taught my community quite a while ago, actually, it's probably something that I even taught in my crypto mastermind course, which was created like 4 years ago and still very relevant to this day. And it's to take the total market, not to be saying that the market cap is the most important thing, building off of what you're saying. It's just a little trick that I've realized that works very well, is if you take Tether's market cap and divide it by the circulating supply of XRP, that gives you a pretty good idea of like where the next pumpy zone for XRP will be. And
Mhm.
that's been a trick that I've been using for 4 years to be able to determine, like, for instance, back in April of 2021, a little bit after I started my YouTube channel, I talked about this, and that was determining the levels of around $1.80. And I think XRP got to 196 on that pump, and then that was the top. And then I used it again at the start of this very important event that was in September 2021, and it actually worked again. And I was able to get that as a significant sell limit order. So back in this time around, what it was showing me is that we would see a $2 to $3 XRP again. In this particular move up to break that phase five that I showed you on the chart earlier.
Right.
And that's what we accomplished. We even went, I mean, we that was a pretty wild move. And the fact that we've been sustaining it for this long is nice to see. I think what I'm starting to shift into focusing on more now is doing technical analysis on USDT dominance and looking more at like what the relationship between that and Bitcoin dominance is. And I think that's helped me a lot on determining what's going on with particularly XRP, whilst we're seeing ETH dominance drown out to such dramatically low levels. Now, if I told you the maths right now, just to give you like cocktail napkin math to let you know what the next big move would be for XRP based on taking the USDT market cap and dividing it by the circulating supply of XRP at this time, it'd be $2.44. So it would bring you back into the range. And that would like make it number three market cap, even if you care about that. I really don't. But what's really wild, bro, is if we were to take the total market cap of Ethereum and divide it by the circulating supply of XRP tokens, it would be only a $3.27 XRP. Bro, that could happen in a day. Literally in one single day. Why? Because it seems like ETH is just back at where it was in 2020 in the midst of like nobody cared. It was boring. I think it was like $400, $300 or something. Super fucking boring. No one cared about it because the narrative was all about the DeFi, right? It was all about the stuff being built on on Ethereum, not about Ethereum itself. And then it took until a lot of things like Chainlink and other competitors, I guess you can say, in the space like Kusama, Polkadot, those started to become the talk of the town. And then we saw the true ETH rally that we typically see to push a true alt season. I don't want to take up too much time with this reply, but I don't really look at order books too much. There's probably something there for me to investigate, but lately I've just been kind of honing in more on Bitcoin dominance, USDT dominance, XRP dominance, and trying to make sense of their relationship together
Mhm.
and M2. And I think that's been helpful for me to understand some of my miscalculations earlier in this year and also why I've got certain things right at certain times during the last cycle because there was alignment that I actually I wasn't even conscious of, and now I am.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that's wild to think is about a $3.27 XRP is all it would take to get above Ethereum, and that is very, 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 very possible this year. Literally, we can see that happen. And when was the last time that happened? Was it 2018?
Yeah, I think at the end of 2017 in December and then into January 2018, XRP had flipped ETH. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a
Mhm.
short-lived moment. And we could be seeing that again, and then it could actually substantially go much higher. And if you're just analyzing market cap, I think a lot of normies are, and that would be enough to like give a fresh narrative to make more FOMO occur. And that FOMO is not good, right? We don't want to just see like people purposefully packing on at the top. It is what it is. I get it. I get the phenomenon psychologically, but yeah, that would be all it would take, I think, because when we look at the last time XRP pumped substantially, once it broke Tether, I keep saying USDT. Once we broke the Tether market cap, shit just broke out in a straight line, and we saw the relationship directly with USDT dominance dropping. It was
Mhm.
just right now we saw a massive move out of the shitcoin market into Tether. And there's way too many leverage exchanges. And I don't want to sound like I'm pointing fingers, but there's way too many famous crypto influencers who their whole business model is shilling signing up to leverage exchanges. No offense. People get mad at people who sell courses, but I'm like, you got to realize that the only other tactic you're seeing in this crypto world is people taking paid sponsorships from leverage exchanges to shill referral links, and that's their main business model. And I would be very cautious with this because who do you think the New World Order is tuning into? Or at least who do you think the New World Order is using their AI to just scrape together and aggregate all the most data of sentiment and how we all feel about the crypto market? Well, it would be pulling in from those major influencers.
Um,
So yeah, guys, like I think like right now that was exactly what we just watched unfold. We're seeing capitulation, obviously, and I think once we see that return again, that like sort of these major influencers are starting to talk really heavily about things like specifically XRP, then we're back. Because I saw not a single one of them talk about XRP at 40 cents. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there like looking like a fool at 40 cents telling people, did you see the tweet that I put out recently to remind people? It was like
yeah, I
XRP
shared
was
it. Yep, I shared that
Oh, I
one. Yep.
appreciate that, man. Yeah,
Yep.
and people were even mad that I shared that.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I'm like, we're literally arguing with each other over $1.96, over
Yep.
a dollar, over $2.01. I mean, yeah, sure, we pushed down to $1.60, whatever, the other day, but we're back at two fucking dollars. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, take an Advil, like
And for
this is what I
reference,
feel like
for
telling
folks who
people.
don't know, too, he was talking about back when XRP was at 40 cents, everybody was fighting over, oh, I don't want to buy now because it might go to 30 cents. It was between 30 and 50 cents. You're arguing over 10, 20 cent difference. Now the sucker's already done a 10 bagger, and it's
Yeah.
doing the same thing here.
And I'll bring it up again. I'll bring it up one more time to share with everyone. If you see this in any chart, this is what phase five is designed to do. It's designed to make you like bite your teeth over these movements when you're not realizing that this is just an accumulation range. It's a very normal and healthy accumulation range from a technical perspective, from a fundamental perspective. Now, the question is $2 XRP fair value? I mean, perhaps it's finally that at a fair value. I think actually Ethereum is finally back at a more fair value. I personally think so. I think that we had way too much nonsense being built on ETH, and now it's back at a more reasonable, like, is 4,000 reasonable? Why should it be? Shit's slow, it's expensive as fuck. It's pretty much garbage, no offense. I mean, I can't build a blockchain, so I should probably calm down. I'm not trying to get
Oh,
too spicy here, but my point is that these things are all speculation. Everything that's happening.
I
So if we
love it.
start to,
You're singing. You're singing for me, brother. I've been talking about how cooked Ethereum is for a while because they got the ETFs last year and it didn't break up into a new all-time high. Like you said, it got close. But I mean, the Bitcoin ETFs were able to push it up and send it into a new paradigm. The Ethereum ETFs, well, it's just been lackluster. I mean, ETH is lagging so hard. So keep on going, brother. You're singing to me.
yeah, no, I'm kind of like starting to assess what exactly is that's going on here with the entire market, and I do believe ETH plays a role in it, but I'm starting to open up my eyes to the fact that oh man, this comes full circle to where today's interview started, where we were talking about like I'm trying to remember exactly, so maybe you could help me with remembering, but we were kind of just talking about it's not enough. We went up 1,000, 300%, 400%. Like it's really not enough for people, right? And
Hmm.
I want to just harp on this for a moment, how desensitized crypto investors are specifically, where we see 100% move in our assets and we're like, oh, whatever. But meanwhile, like a stock investor would be like feeling like they've hit the jackpot. And for us, it's like never enough. So I think that also comes back to like where's fair value in our reality? It doesn't even exist because this is mostly digital fairy dust, like at the end of the day. And we're giving meaning to it more as communities online than actual real world use. You
Hmm.
feel me?
Yep.
So
100%.
the way this is unfolding is like perhaps this time around we're waking up to that everything will be repriced in the whole world, whether that be during Trump's administration or that be the one after, I don't care. We're moving into what I'm calling the Aquarian economy. It's the economy of the Aquarian age, where
Hmm.
we will see identity no longer as it was. I mean, I believe we've also been seeing that as early as Obama's administration with all of the rhetoric going there. And then now that we're seeing Trump back here, day one, he's taken away a lot of the stuff that was being like programmed into the soft skulls of the world
Hmm.
during the Obama and Biden time. And then now we're like, oh man, what I feel good, but the market's down, and this is positive again, but this is not so good, and all my drop shipping businesses are gonna stop working soon because of the tariffs. Like this is such chaotic times, and I think what I'm trying to reveal here before we finish off with this analysis is like this is actually quite a good thing because it will make us grateful again. I think we will eventually become grateful as investors, specifically crypto investors again. And everything in 2020 and 2021, in my opinion, showed me how scary and dangerous investing is from a retail perspective because no one wants to take profits in this market. No one wants to de-risk. People laugh at people who talk about de-risking. People were laughing at me when I was de-risking my Bitcoin at 47K to buy like a 35-cent XRP. Who do you think won that exchange?
Yep.
Did I win by Bitcoin going up 150% or did I win by having my XRP play go up 500? Which one is it?
Hmm.
But no one sees it for what it is. And they get upset and point fingers at people and tell you you're wrong. And I'm like, damn, man, we needed this. And I think by 2026, we'll start to become more grateful again, I think, to even be a part of this game. And I'll will sit back and have this conversation like old men being like, remember the 30 cent XRP? You know, like it's gonna be that.
Mhm.
And I hope people are waking up to what we're saying. But I think this overlay right here is pretty amazing. I'm not gonna shrink it down to try to make it perfect, but let me do my best to kind of make sense of what I'm showing you here, that there are these major moves in ETH from cycle top to this major low right there, and then the shift back to the upside, a return back to the lows, another shift up, this V-shape recovery in alignment with the C19 crash, the recovery, the peak over here, and then a major release in energy topping there. Now it's started to decouple, but what I'll teach you is what happened over here. It was the start of a total lunar cycle. Lunar eclipses started kicking in over here. That's what just happened here in March.
Mm.
So this big drawdown after this Christmas tree top, it was right there into the start of a new eclipse season. And then this rally that we had was right before the second total or the second eclipse of the cycle. Well, the next eclipse that's coming up will be on September 7th. So I'm overlaying this, and what it's showing is that we could still have like a little bit more bottoming going on for altcoins through, let's just say, May, but it would all be because Bitcoin dominance is just continuing to rage up to like 70%. And in that moment, as long as the stock market is looking pretty good and USDT dominance is kind of keeling over, we can see XRP back at the 240 range. We could see ETH back at like the 2000 range all throughout this May timeframe. But the true release I'm feeling is actually in alignment with this move right here, this July and
Mhm.
August. And
Mhm.
if you see where this fractal tops out, funny enough, but by the way, guys, I'm not saying we're going to go to a $13,000 ETH. This fractal I'm just showing you is more of the major pivots, which so far, a lots of them are matching up. You could see that right there. Perfect bottom from the top, perfect bottom right there, perfect top, etc.
Mhm.
This release in energy into July, August, perhaps very early September. You know what this aligns with, bro? It aligns with the 1929 market, the market that moved us into the Great Depression. Like, I'm not saying we're going to move into a Great Depression 2.0, but with what I laid the foundation for earlier, because some of you might be like, Waters, what the hell are you talking about with the everything becoming repriced and all that? Well, that's what 2026 and 2027 is going to be. It's going to be a great repricing. Why? Because AI is coming. So everything I just said in that riff, in that stream of consciousness, it adds up to what's the outlook of the direction of our future. In
Mhm.
2026, as early as July, the city of Austin, Texas, will be allowing robotaxi fleets to be street ready. And I do believe that throughout the end of 2026, sorry, 2025, we're talking about months away, guys. Throughout the end of this year, we'll start to see more of these implementations city by city, like we did with something like Uber, where it just took city by city until now it's across the globe.
Mhm.
What does this mean? Well, think about this, what it's going to do to the labor force. So why are they like collapsing everything right now? Because they're gonna do what they've said they were gonna do. These technocrats are going to push in more of or they're gonna push out the gig workers and they're gonna replace a lot of the gig workers with autonomous vehicles and humanoid robots. It's not an opinion anymore. We saw last year the company Tesla themselves introduced this. It's not a meme.
Well, it's happening
Everything,
in Phoenix right now too. I was just down in Scottsdale and the
yeah,
Waymo
Waymo.
vehicles are driving all around and I scaring me to death too. I'm crossing the sidewalk looking at that thing like "Hey, you gonna make a move here or what? You know, it's scary when you first see them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a thing. And I think a lot of people they hate to hear this, but you mentioned before that you wanted to discuss future outlook. And I kind of prepared the stage for that, like the future wealth plan and like how to go about the rest of this cycle until we get to a moment where it's pretty obvious that the grand plan all along was to do what Trump said within like a week of his becoming president, he said that he's going to make America the blockchain and artificial intelligence capital of the world.
Yep.
I don't know how the QAnon people feel right now, but that is the antithesis of what was presented in their theories.
Yep. And we've already got trillions of dollars invested. Now, Jordan, before we get there, because we have set the stage, but if people will kill me if I don't ask you for the XRP analysis, and maybe we could just do our XRP analysis real quick and then roll right into that on our wealth
Sure, sure,
strategy
sure.
because we need to know how high XRP is going to go so we can establish our wealth plan there. Huh?
Sure.
And that's a joke too, guys, because we've talked about this in the past. I've always said XRP is just one part of my plan for creating generational wealth. We need to each find, and especially as Jordan's running us up here into this conversation of the reset, restructure, revaluation, life as we know it changes forever. You need to figure out, is your business going to be viable in, the next few years? Now is the time to figure this out. One, yeah, we want to figure out where XRP is going, but other than that, we should also have another, a full, wholesome strategy for creating the life that we want, whether that includes generational wealth or not. But Jordan, where do you see XRP going here this bull run? I want to get your timeline on this bull run as a macro, the broader market, and then for XRP, what levels do you see this thing going to in the next 12 months or so?
Of course. So we could see this chart. We've been harping on it quite a bit lately. We could go ahead and zoom into it now, but you're in the I built the foundation to tell you that we could very well be in something like this right now, where we've had our official peak up here that's started to show exhaustion, and this rally higher high is actually a bull trap to the upside. Not too rare in crypto. In Wyckoff, it's called upthrust. And what you move into after that is sort of this very strange, choppy phase where you have dramatic moves to the upside, dramatic corrections to the downside. But usually these absorption candles, which are you could identify them because of they have big tails to the downside, kind of like the C19 crash. Remember, everyone remembers the tails on some of those candles were like 20 to 30%. It's fucking crazy. So here in crypto land, we're quite used to that. And whatever ends up being our particular bottom, I still think the timing is very well postured with my overall analysis that I've been sharing for a year. Which is July, August, is the big release of energy. So you kind of have the time frame here, and the movement is going to be very similar to this. And now, since we're talking about it, let's go ahead and zoom into what that was. And we'll just pull a very basic fib. I'm sorry if it looks a little messy. I'll do my best to expand it. I'm on a weekly chart, by the way, because who cares about the daily?
What you mean we're
Pulling
not going to look at the 5 minute chart?
Yeah, we should be looking at the 13-minute chart. So over here, I took this, I pulled a fib. I actually turned this indicator off, or sorry, I turned this setting off. It's called fib levels based on log scale. I am looking at a logarithmic chart right now, but what I'm doing is I'm analyzing quite a short time frame. So whenever I'm looking at shorter time frames, I look at it on a linear, especially with my fibs. Whenever I'm looking at longer time frames, I'll look at it on log, and I'll use both sometimes to mark off levels. Right. So I'm just doing a very basic fib pull here, swing high to swing low. By the way, this correction, I know when we zoom out, it doesn't look that crazy, but this was about a 68% correction. What did we do recently? Well, let's go into XRP. Let's go from this current top, about 336, and down to our swing low. We're looking at about a 52% correction. That would be pretty much good to go, in my opinion. Especially the fact that this, sorry, I know there's an indicator on top. It's this M2 indicator. But look, there's pretty decent absorption on any sub $2 XRP. And
Yep.
I think that's clear now. So what this is showing me is a very clean move of a Wyckoff accumulation in the micro of a buying climax, selling climax, automatic reaction. And here was just a supply test to the downside, which was back testing a confirmed support. We know it was confirmed support because of this bounce up. By the way, guys, we're looking at weekly candles. So this was a weekly close above here. This isn't an hour chart. This is very important data. Then what do? Everything likes to backtest the 236 before we really spend time in the golden pocket. XRP says fuck you to the golden pocket, breaks straight through it. It loves to do this. XRP doesn't give chances. Okay. I think I showed you this a little bit earlier over here. XRP loves to break through the golden pocket, like swipe through it in a straight line. We did it back in the phase three of the last alt season, and we did it also over here on this candle. If I was to pull a fib, I could show you. Undeniable, just swiped straight through it, gets to the top, and then starts chopping around. Or sorry, let me turn this back on because this would be a multi-year. You see right there? Boom. Swipes straight through all that liquidity,
Mhm.
back tests the top of the golden pocket. What did we just do? Swipe through all that, back test the top of the golden pocket. It's looking clean to me, guys. I just think the timing of it is more like here, this time frame between May and December.
Mhm.
So what we're doing right now is we're trying to identify a structural setup to have the breakout, although the breakout itself is going to be equally as violent as we saw recently back at the October, November timeframe. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing. I'm going to pull a fib. Now that we've had a pretty dramatic pullback, I'm going to make sure that this setting is turned off so that I'm looking at it linearly. And we are now getting back to the 236 level. We do really want to get back above this sooner than later. Or this is just a really jacked up bull flag, which I'm not the biggest pattern trader on earth. And I try to avoid calling patterns, especially in cryptocurrency. But the reason why I'm saying we got to get it back above this sooner than later is because this was our structural support, and we don't want this to become like a head and shoulders. This could sink much, much lower. The answer to that is how long will it last? Well, sad news for everyone here in XRP, we don't have much being built over here. We broke straight through this, very little volume built over here. Would it
Mhm.
be healthy for XRP to come back to like $1.20? Well, it wouldn't feel healthy, but it would grab all that liquidity. And I think the New World Order right now wants to bring you as much pain as possible. So I'm not calling that we can go lower from this particular range because, in my opinion, we filled most of this tail. Like this has been filled, all of this liquidity. I wasn't expecting it, but we did, and we did it off of a narrative. So when you combine narrative, like with the C19 crash, plus major volatility, then you look at what the VIX is doing, you look at what all the market doing, and you symphony together. To me, it shouldn't go too much lower, but we have this whole area which is exposed. It's naked. We don't have any trading being built here since the breakout.
Mhm.
I wasn't excited about this breakout on XRP because I don't like the way XRP breaks out. It's my
Mhm.
biggest position. I'm just being honest as a neutral technical analyst of this asset. I fucking hate how it breaks out because
Mhm.
it loves to just swipe through all the liquidity and then it has these Bart Simpson heads. It's become like kind of a meme, and
Right.
we're teetering into that territory of like, does this turn into a momentary distribution? So
Mhm.
if I had to be super neutral right now, I think we need to get through the month of April because we have a couple of astrological things that are happening, some as soon as this weekend. Like Venus will be stationing direct soon. That is something I'm just starting to look into because it's a every other year event and it definitely causes some fuckery in markets. And we've seen Mercury retrograde causes a cyclical pattern in markets. I just covered it well, I need to make a new YouTube video soon. I make them less regularly because I sort of feel like all the other people are doing all the work for me, keeping
Mhm.
people updated on the markets, and I try to only come out when I have something powerful to say. But yeah,
Mhm.
needless to say that we've moved through the Mercury retrograde timeframe. We're in the shadow period right now. That could take up until after this upcoming full moon, which will be it'll be tomorrow. So for everyone who's
Mhm.
listening to this, I'm not sure if you're going to post it later today or tomorrow,
Yep.
but effectively when we're around full moons, I think you said earlier when you were trading, better than most people, this is a time frame for a bottoming structure. But every new moon lately has been leading to an immediate dump. And that's been a pattern that we got all last year. Funny enough, it kind of started after the Bitcoin ETF launched. So,
Mhm.
ever since the Bitcoin ETF launch, we've been seeing two things occur. All the new moons immediately following them are bearish, and M2 money supply offset by like around 3 months and a half has been spot on. It's not something we could look back on years and prove, but lately everyone's catching on to this. So it's telling me the New World Order is going to be like, oh, you fucking idiots, you're looking at the wrong thing again. I'm no offense, but like people have made this their core analysis now, like just looking at M2. And I'm like, you got to be careful, guys, because
Yeah.
it's not as simple. And when you're looking at an altcoin, remember the entire global liquidity is like we only need a fucking penny of percent to get crazy moves in all random altcoins. So I just be careful. And at this time, I'm more until I see structural reversal in place, particularly on XRP, we have to remain cautious. So to round out the analysis, structural reversal would be getting back above 250. Cementing a weekly close again above 260 would look like this. Something like that, getting back to there. Even there, I would suspect back tests. So I would love to see XRP actually do something like this. It's never going to do what I want, but if I had to draw out kind of the play here, I would suspect something like this through the weekend. Maybe Monday we get a little bit of like flash because that's been a common theme lately. Then as we get towards the end of the month, a little bit of chop around the 240. Then we have the new moon come back like that and then do something like that
Hmm.
late May.
Hmm. Late May.
Yeah. And I don't care about the pattern. I don't really care about the structure. I'm just sort of giving you like my outlook right now. It's really this post new moon. And right now, in the next like 4 or 5 days, because also one thing to share, and I don't know if you're aware of this. Did you know that whenever we have a 9% move on the S&P to the upside, we've never actually continued higher past that day? We've always come back to a deeper correction than where we corrected prior off of
Yeah.
that. That's like a fact.
That's what was
Do we?
scary about that bounce is we've only seen a recovery or basically gains like that for the stock market during bear markets.
Yes. And that's fucked up. That's something
Yeah.
we need to be serious about and we need to address that this bounce right here that we got was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. This isn't
Only
even a V
Trump can
shape.
make that happen.
Yeah, this isn't even a V-shape recovery. It's like a needle recovery.
Right.
So
Right.
sorry. I'm very cautious about this
Yeah.
personally. It's crazy. In my last Red Pill podcast that I do for my Patreon community, I talked about this before we had the weekly open. I kind of dedicated it to this like Black Monday meme that was going around.
Mm.
But I said that watch Monday open will probably be close, like very close, if not slightly deeper into the prior all-time high of 2021. And it's mind blowing how we swiped up through all that liquidity and recovered pretty much back to where the breakdown was. This is the most unhealthy move I've ever seen. And it's so narrative driven and awkward that, yeah, when I look at that data about the 9% moves on the S&P and how we've been known to go lower after, it wouldn't shock me if something happens and I don't want to theorize too much, but I just sent this out yesterday, a tweet that the market's drunk right now. And effectively, if I could summarize what I said in the tweet, is that we're going to get desensitized to hearing about these exaggerated tariff numbers. And today, what happens? We get like, what is it? China 100 something percent tariff.
Yeah, they went from
And
84 to 125 or something like that. Yeah,
there
we're
you
losing
go.
track of these numbers. Yeah.
And the market went up. Okay.
Yep.
So, like, my point here is that that is all gonna be, it's like a meme. It's bullshit now. No one gives a fuck. And it's because we're in the new world. If they did that in 1980s, bro, holy fuck, we would be like at least another 20% correction throughout the whole week. But now no one cares because everything is about exaggeration with who? With Trump. Everything is exaggeration. And we don't care anymore. This is why they're using him to distract everyone, and this is why they're using his He's like hyperbole about everything. So no one's going to take him seriously soon, and they're about to turn him into a hero again. So mark my words. Everyone who thought he was a hero after he won the election, they've just demonized him. Now they're going to turn him back into a hero again, and it'll probably be synchronized with what you shared earlier, the next Fed meeting. What did I just show you on this XRP chart? This dump down over here into
Yep.
when? Right into around the Fed meeting. Now, I have one more last thing to share. So you don't think what I'm showing you here is just make believe. For some reason, all of our events lately have been on specific dates. We have the 2/2 date. I know you said February 3rd earlier, but people need to remember that that was just the daily close. We actually were having all this chaos start on February 2nd, the 2/2
Hmm.
date. That's symbolic of the 33rd day of the year. Then we have on March 3rd, we have this event with Trump again, where the Truth Social post happens
Oh
on
yeah, perfect.
3/3 Gregorian date, and then it's a Twin Towers candle, is what I call it. So you have the pump and dump with the same, pretty much same volume either direction. Then you have on the 4/4 date, we have the whole thing start with the tariffs. So the stock market completely takes a shit. Let me get back to the S&P so you guys could see like what is Waters talking about. I'm talking about this. Okay. We have this major move into the 4/4 date, April 4th. Market closes on Friday. Jim Cramer comes out, expect a Black Monday, right? Okay. Well, if we look at some of the stats here on the closures, we had this 38 thousand point Dow. The following day we had Bitcoin at the 83K level. Dude, I don't know what the hell's going on in this market, but it's synchronizing so well with numerology.
Yeah.
Just like kind of where I want to wrap up this idea is like we have 4/4, and then we have 4/7 is our crazy fucked up day, the quote unquote Black Monday. And we were just talking earlier about how we have the 47th president. So you have April 4th through April 7th was like our market reset in a way. It was all the hedge fund liquidations, margin calls, etc. happened throughout those two trading days. And then we had the Bitcoin, the 74K crash. We had, everything I was saying about Trump being the 47th president. It's wild, man. So I'm thinking because I started this whole 4/2 date, 3/3 date, 4/4 date, Cinco de Mayo is coming up. Will they do
Mm-hmm.
something weird on Cinco de Mayo, which synchronizes with the next time Chair Powell speaks? Probably. I didn't look at the exact date of the week that will be. Let me quickly check that while I have my calendar here. So it's going to be a Monday, even better. The
Yep.
fact that it's a Monday is great because what do we see in our pattern? Well, February 3rd was a Monday. We have March 3rd. It was a Monday. We have April 7th. It was a Monday. What the fuck? So Monday, Moon Day, day of Moony, money. This is all just liquidity. And they're using the Friday market close, giving us this time to the weekend. We've been seeing these insane CME gaps opening to the upside or the downside on Bitcoin every time they're getting filled. And the relationship that we're having now with all of the markets it's like it's synchronizing. And I think 5/5 will probably be maybe, and I don't want to put myself on blast here, but it might be like one of the really sick opportunity, like last minute opportunities we have if we are to see downside pressure.
Hmm.
The only other thing that I could say to round this out is they love the number three. They love doing things in threes. So did we have our three events already? We had 2/2 on the 33rd day of the year. We had March 3rd, 33 Gregorian date. And what would be 33 days later?
Hmm. Hmm.
So we take
Hmm.
33 days. Let me see if I could get back to this on my chart. But when we take from the March 3rd date over 33 days later, it brings you to the 4/5 date, literally right into that weekend where we had everything go
Wow.
down in our markets. So
Wow.
I'm postulating that we might have already had our 33 rituals. Now
Hmm.
it's time for us to have some positive. I don't know if the Fed is gonna do what we want them to do. I feel like everyone wants them to do what we want them to do, and that's where I'm a little cautious.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that Trump returning to being the hero again because he's been calling for the Fed to drop rates. And he's been saying that they're late and that they're always late. He's been beating them up and talks of, oh, he might fire Jerome Powell, right? So if that does come true, they cut rates, then Trump gets to come back out, grandstand that he was right, Powell was wrong, they were late, and he becomes the hero again, along with whatever else is happening at that time. It's funny that you mentioned that the 3-3 there because I had put on my chart, my Doofus Moron TA, how we did this triple tap back in December, back testing to $2 before we shot back off to $3.40. And we did the same thing here in February into March, where we triple tapped that $2 level. Obviously, we broke down to $1.70 in February. But basically, I was saying, hey guys, watch out. We did the triple tap in December, then we took off. We did the triple tap here just now. We're about to take off. And then he really killed us with this trade war, and so I was wrong on that. But it is funny how the world works in that way. I guess because I wanted to finish off by talking about your long-term wealth plan, and we've gone so long, and I've had so much fun. I mean, the analysis that you've broken down there, I've been learning a lot as you go. I want to hone in on your specific XRP plan, and then let's take that into a broader discussion about how you're planning on, securing your wealth and your life outside of crypto and after crypto, maybe, right? So I want to preface this with kind of my expectations for XRP. I believe, in the next couple months, maybe we do it later this year at some point. We're breaking out into price discovery for XRP. I think that I've seen you talk about $6 to $7. I'm right in the same area. I believe that we need to have one run up where we go into price discovery and we get out all the sellers that are going to take profit, and myself included. I'm going to be taking some profit too. As we approach $10. I don't think that we break above $10 on this first wave up. And I'm talking about first wave into price discovery. And it's just mostly psychology and the fact that you have so many people that have been bag holding for so long and, like myself, want to shave off a little bit as we approach those levels. And then the traders will play it a little bit bigger. But my take is that we're not going to break above $10 until we get through that moment, right? And I do believe that comes later this year. And so your take on kind of that, just we need to run up, we need to get this out of the way, and then we can talk about maybe moving up into double digits and beyond at the end of this year, into next year. You already talked about reset into 2026, 2027. In fact, we actually just got a prediction from Standard Charter, a major bank here in the US, of a $5.50 XRP this year, $8 by next year, $10.40 by 2027, and they predict $12.50 by the end of Trump's second term in 2028. So that's where Standard Charter's at. My analysis says, we're definitely going to double digits eventually. But we got to flush out the sellers between $5 and $10 before we can do so. But where do you stand with kind of your expectations for XRP on those levels? And I don't know if you want to mention maybe if you're going to be taking profit or, what are your considerations for XRP breakout?
Yeah, one thing I've done very methodically over the past 2 to 3 years has been accumulating XRP very strategically off of big pivot points. So I've packed my bags mostly on XRP to the point where I'm not really concerned of where these crazy prices could eventually be. I would just be very cautious in entertaining high levels in the immediate short term. So I agree with what you're saying in your exit strategy that you revealed about, not expecting a double digit XRP perhaps during the calendar year of 2025. I don't necessarily know if I believe in the theory that we're going to be continuously moving up through price discovery for XRP or any assets through 26 and 27. I strongly disagree with that actually. The year of the horse is like historically one of the most fucked up years in our world. And I don't mean that because I'm trying to like sound controversial. I'm just being honest. Like this is the year where like Auschwitz and like concentration camps were being like packed up, where Asian citizens in the United States of America were being put into internment camps. It was the worst year of World War I in terms of casualties. Um, Highest amount of deaths in Vietnam. Same issue that was going on in 2002. I love to use Chinese zodiac as a big part of my overall investments in my overall outlook on the world, geopolitical, and my investment strategy. So yeah, I'm very cautious. Again, I'm not trying to say that the Standard Charter or whomever is inaccurate or that they're wrong. I just don't agree with that outlook. Also, that crypto in particular doesn't like to do this sustained stair step move up. The only asset we've really seen do that is Bitcoin. And the only time we've really seen it proven it right in front of our faces with Bitcoin is the last 3 years. Because Bitcoin has been pumpy dumpy all the way through 2022, right? We just had a almost 80% correction through 2022. Then once 2023 came around, we've been looking fucking gorgeous on the Bitcoin chart. Perfect move up, stair step, another move up, stair step, and now we've made a third move up. And question is, do we spend all this time in another huge horizontal trading range? Perhaps. Would that be good for XRP and a lot of other assets? Sure. But I mean, it's not proven to be the case because we just saw an 80% correction across the board in most speculative altcoins. So XRP is looking great. I don't agree with the outlook that we'll just keep stair stepping up in prices through 26 and 27. My personal outlook is that yes, $6 to $8 is a very technical move. A lot of my initial take profit targets for XRP are settled around the $7 range. I think that's a very nice level to have accomplished if you were one of those people accumulating sub $1. If you're sub 50 cents, congratulations. If you were back there when I got started with my XRP accumulation at around 25 cents, great. Like, so this is really quite a high target. And I think some people might be like, oh, why not $100 XRP? And I don't know if that's your community. It sounds like you're much more level-headed and your people are a lot more like in reality. I've entertained targets into the $14 to $15 range, but that would require a totally new shift in economic policy. Like everything would have to go super positive again. And as I said moments ago, I see 26 to be like quite an awful year in a lot of ways. I think there will be much more layoffs. I think we will absolutely be in a recession by then for sure. Housing market will continue to do what it was designed to do. Um, and I think this boomer generation is like our only hope, kind of, to not make the collapse free fall. I really much do believe that. I think most people aren't paid enough in their normal jobs to support the cost of living. It's tough for me to entertain 26 to be this year where like I'm positive. I'm very much negative on it across the board. So I'm using 25 with any relief rally or any potential push into price discovery to de-risk a very large portion of especially my crypto holdings. I don't know if I'll ever sell my physical gold. I don't really see the point of that.
Hmm.
Um, which is crazy for me to say
I
because if
didn't
you
know
go
that you
back to
held gold. That surprised. I'm surprised. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I hold some of it and it's like it was a it's funny because in 2021 and 22 people hated me because the XRP community particularly is much more into precious metals than like like obviously meme coin or people that are into like just speculative DeFi stuff. But I was saying that I'm not buying gold in 2021 as part of my like launch of my sharing my investment thesis with the world through what the Waters Above channel. And 2022 I was also like nope, and people hated that because they thought I don't know why people do this, but they like assume if you don't want to buy something that means you don't ever plan to buy it. And I
Hmm.
was like, guys, you need to understand, like, this is part of my thesis that we're moving into a Jubilee year and we're in a Shemitah year. I'm not going to go against my beliefs, like, on how this market actually works. And what happened in 2022, we had the entire market correction across the board. It was the Shemitah year. Yeah, I could pull up the chart real quick just for your audience so they could see what the hell I'm talking about. I'm going quickly to the S&P
Well,
500.
for the real ones that have been with me for the past 4 years, they know because I was citing your work on the Shemitah.
Yeah, I
And
appreciate
that's
that,
why I
brother.
was pounding the drum, putting out my recession to-do list in 2022, back when it was politically incorrect to call it a recession, even though we had technically achieved one in the first half. So yeah, my audience, they know. Yep, yep.
That's dope, man. I appreciate that. Like, so my thesis here was that if we go back into the Shemitah year, which for anyone who doesn't know, it's a 7-year cycle. It's called the sabbatical year. It's practiced in Judaism. What I'm sharing with you now is not me being against a religion or for a religion. I've realized that the Hebrew calendar is quite powerful when you're analyzing markets. And I discovered this connection to why are all of our big market crashes synchronized, and not just market crashes, guys. We're talking about like change of world order. We're talking
Right.
about like fucking world wars, like serious shit going down. So this
Yep.
isn't a joke. Now, I was noticing the pattern is not all of the Shemitahs are just like doom and gloom the whole time. Like most of them is when we top and then we have the crash.
Mm,
So we topped in right there at the start of 2022, perfectly in January. And then when you look at our correction, it was only until 1 week after Rosh Hashanah, the Hebrew New Year, was our bottom. But we pretty much corrected all through the Shemitah year.
mhm,
And then we moved into Jubilee from Rosh Hashanah here in 2022 to Rosh Hashanah here in 2023. And what I was teaching people back then is Jubilee is positive. Jubilee and the biblical Jubilee is something that happens every 50 years. And it's effectively when like land is returned back to people that it was confiscated from. Wars are put on pause. Literally, literally,
yep.
war is put on pause. Slaves are freed. This is biblical Jubilee. Okay, so what happened on the world stage during this whole year? Lockdowns are over, guys. Go back on your vacations, have fun. And then
Mm.
what happens immediately after Jubilee's over? October 7th. When did I buy my gold? Into the weekend right before the October 7th event. Did I know October 7th would happen? Not necessarily, but did I expect a post-Jubilee event tied to specifically Jews and Israel? Yes, 100%. This
Mhm.
V shape right here, I bought my gold right there.
Right,
And
right
it's
below 1900. Wow.
and it was posted on a Red Pill podcast that I did.
Wow.
And so it's like 100% documented that I did this. And I don't know, I'm not trying to like flex right now, but it's been a pretty good move.
That's a move. That's a move right there,
And
especially for precious metals. I mean, this
yeah,
isn't crypto, right?
and I didn't buy silver because my analysis on silver was that it wasn't the play. And I
Mm,
got so much shit for that too.
mm,
And it's so strange that I got that hate because it was hate for 21, 22. I had my reason, like I had an actual investment thesis, and I wasn't just pulling shit out of my like out of nowhere. I showed people 100 years of chart history in the S&P with the Shemitah cycle and Jubilee. And I said,
yep,
guys, like I don't know what to tell you, man, but I think this is what you pay for from me. You want
yep.
to get this sauce. So
Mhm.
yeah, gorgeous play on the gold. I don't think gold is gonna stop. I think in this environment oh sorry, I think we're getting off track. Where are we going with this? The wealth
Well,
plan.
we were talking wealth and gold is part of it. I mean, I've long been talking about it too, about
Okay. I'm
how
sorry, I didn't want to get off the rails. I
no,
was
you're
hoping that
good.
this is helpful for your audience.
It is because I didn't know you were in precious metals and I'm fascinated. I mean, this
Not silver, but
shows
gold, yeah.
this shows exactly why your program is working out so well. You didn't buy when it was necessarily popular, right? You bought when the charts were telling you, hey, the correction's coming in, and you swooped up that low really well. And I've long talked about this, and we can relate this back to our broader conversation about wealth preservation.
Hmm.
About for me, since 2022, focus on stacking cash, and then for defensive plays, I stack silver, which clearly I've done all right in silver, but gold's done really well too. But that's defensive, and that allows me to sleep like a baby at night, and also go on offense. Into the crypto investments that are very risky, is because we got cash and we got our precious metals. I start a little garden, go out there with my children and go touch some grass, right? And to me, that's real wealth. Real wealth is I get to wake up every single day here, do what I love. I can't wait for Mondays. I forget what day it is because I do this every day, right? And I got a family. Hopefully, we can produce a few more babies too, maybe, or maybe one or two more, and keep that going. Precious metals for defense, and then on offense, we can just attack these opportunities to go knock it out of the park, like we're doing on our cryptos. But I think I'm curious. I'm fascinated that you have precious metals. Are you looking at any other assets? I mean, what else are you doing to protect yourself right now?
Like I think the best investment is in yourself. So I'm big on investing in my business right now. And I think that if I could share any wisdom with anyone, and it's not to plug anything, but I was very motivated for my outlook on 26 and 27 before 25, just like I was looking towards 2023 back in 2021. I'm trying to be a couple of years ahead in my outlook, and I create accordingly. So what does that mean? Back in 2023, I already expected what was going to happen into 25, no matter who was president, and this was motivating me to be sharing my skills and my knowledge and wisdom on creating businesses, not just cryptocurrency stuff and not just this world of investing, and to teach people about the best investment of all time, which is in yourself. So I was very motivated at the start of 25 to give myself a deadline to create what is now running, and it's called Waters Above University. And in this university, which we just opened up a new cohort, and its enrollment period is still live right now, probably be open for the rest of this month. This is where I'm teaching people how to generate cash flow. So I think the solution to most of these problems is not your crypto investments. It's not your gold investment. It's to create cash flow. Cash flow is king.
Mhm.
Whatever you feel on cash, I don't really care. I've been pretty illumined to the fact that the winners in this game are always working on generating more cash flow. And what you do with the cash flow you generate now goes into your investment thesis, right? And it goes into how you're either being offensive or defensive, how you're hedging, etc. But a lot of people get too caught up in the investment side of things and then they disregard the cash flow side and then they're like miserable going to their 9 to 5. Now, that's totally fine. A lot of people are dealing with that, and I respect that. I used to be in that environment too. But what motivated me to get out of it was the sense that, like, well, things aren't going to get better. And they're especially not going to get better for people like me. And what do I mean by this? And I think a lot of you probably resonate is I'm outspoken. I don't take shit from anyone. I'm not an order follower. During C19, I knew that it would be very tough for me to get a job because I didn't want to wear a mask. I wasn't going to take the jab. Like, that's just not me. Like, I'm not that guy. So
Mhm.
I think that that really resonates with so many people that have come across my work beyond just my TA skills or whatever, is they like that there's some strong masculine presence in this space that's not just shilling people like Bugattis and fucking dumb, useless liabilities.
Yeah.
And to continue in my honor code, I launched Waters Above University to provide that skill and that knowledge to people who I believe, for the most part, are lacking it. And unfortunately, and I don't say this to be disrespectful to anyone, but I think the Trump situation is making too many people like bewildered and making them believe that things will get better and somehow like we'll get more jobs and everything will be fine, like some actual golden age is coming. And I want to tell all those people, like, you gotta have a less comfortable bed to sleep on. Like, it's time to wake up. Like, it's time to throw some water on your face and realize that the only new jobs that are coming are AI jobs. And that means one person will be utilizing 50 computers that are all synchronized together in the Internet of Things. There will be no new jobs coming, and any of those new jobs that are coming will just produce more expensive goods because the labor that we pay in the US is much higher than a place like China. Is it bad that we'll get jobs that will be in factories like in 3 years, because that's probably the time horizon that it'll take to implement such a thing? No. But is that going to change your life right now? That's what we want to address, guys. We want to address that, not what factory is going to be open in 3 fucking years. Okay, we need to change your life today and stop waiting around. So yeah, my number one thing that I invest in is my business. I'm always trying to think of new ways that I can be more useful to the world, and that'll allow me to share my skills. And then I start thinking about things like crypto.
Right.
Or Now, to answer your question thoroughly, I am not investing in gold or silver right now. I am not investing in housing right now. I'm a little sketched out by the housing market. I I don't like to time markets, even though that's my expertise. I don't know if I'm good enough at timing the housing market.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone is. I mean, it's 30-year mortgages, these really long time horizon products, but I do sniff that we're in a 07, 8 kind of thing. Big difference is there's real money in this equation this time around. Like, as opposed to that time, there was like, do you have a pulse and can you write your name on this paper? Okay, here's a home. That's not the case this time around.
Yeah.
But I do worry we have way too much credit circulating the system, not enough income, not enough cash flow for the general person. The credit system is going to bust sooner or later. I mean, I'm not sure how that's going to bode for the entire economy. And Yeah, that's just a lot of stuff that worries me and keeps me more just hands off at this time, waiting for bigger corrections to scoop up land and real estate. And I do have that as part of my future outlook.
Yeah.
I think that, like, if I can Um, Eventually acquire real estate, I would like to, but my thing is like I don't want to become a landlord. Like I don't, it's just not my character.
Yeah.
So that's even why I've avoided it too. It's kind of like the Warren Buffett thing where he says like stick to your circle of competence. Like I'm I'm not planning on becoming this real estate mogul. Like I don't give a fuck.
Mhm.
So if I was to do it, it would probably be like out of making a business, like a retail space or acquiring land to make like a retreat center or something like that. I have a lot of those ideas and that vision for myself.
Right.
And I kind of want to spend the rest of this year and hopefully more of next year communicating with like-minded people that have a similar vision. Because what happens when the world gets worse is you need to have community. You need to have people that share a vision. And I worry that people are becoming more and more selfish in the wrong ways, in the ways that are driving us apart, even in the quote unquote truther community.
Right.
So if I have to spearhead some of those projects, I will. And that's kind of the energy that I'm on right now. More than becoming your own bank, I think we should create our own banks. We should create our own airports. We should create our own, transportation systems. We should create our own waste removal systems. Like everything, we're so reliant on government and these technocrats to accomplish day-to-day things when we could easily build these systems for ourselves. It just requires people to organize. And I'm not saying to create a revolution. Like the biggest fuck you to the New World Order is us peacefully just becoming self-reliant.
Mhm.
That's all. No process needed.
Throw some seeds in the dirt and watch them sprout, right? And
Precisely.
yeah, I love your energy, brother, and I love your work. There's very few people that I speak highly of who are making courses and programs. Obviously, I have my own personal group too, and I think that there's a lot of value in community, like you said. I think it's actually going to be one of the most important assets that we have. Connecting in person is even better than virtually, but on a daily basis, it's not realistic for us all to get together every day. And so that's why we have platforms like this, why we have private communities. And part of my program too is putting out that content and the resources for our community to, uh, you know, make it come in. And I keep on bringing it back. In 2022, I said, guys, figure out one, if your job's even going to be around. Like if you have to just ask your boss straight up, hey boss man, are we going to be here in 12 to 24 months? Like what's the situation like? And maybe at the time they would have said, yeah, we're still kicking. And now, they're not. That's the reality of our economy, and why I said secure your income and expand your income. Start that side hustle. If you already have a business, let's figure out how we can scale it up. And so I love the idea that that's your approach too, because it's something that I've hounded on my community as well. Is a lot of people think, oh, he's just an XRP hype guy. Well, if you peel back the onion a little bit, and if you stick around for our live shows, you come into my Discord group for our weekly calls, we're talking about all these things outside of crypto too. And I think that you've made great points about how you got a lot of traders in here, who are just here to make a quick buck, and they're going to piss it away just as quickly as they made it, even if they do get lucky on some of these meme coin plays. And
Hmm.
so I love your approach because it's wholesome. I align with your energy, even when we look at some of these timelines. 2026. There's some turbulence here, might be some rough times. You remain optimistic, and you remain focused on your purpose. And I think that's why you're going to be a big winner, and why your community is going to win in a massive way. And so it's always a pleasure to connect with you, man. I mean, we can't wait another couple years to do it again. We'll
Yeah.
definitely have to
No,
circle
man,
back
you got my
sooner.
email now. We should connect next month. I think it'd
Yeah.
be really good if we could make that happen because next month I think is going to be very pivotal. In
Yeah.
general, May is a very weird time frame where like post tax season, kind of everything is getting prepared for these longer days, more sunshine. Energy is just a little bit like more corrected and regulated. And I think
Mhm.
those are kind of the reasons why the market moves the way that it does seasonally. So be a good time for us to connect and see how that little move played out that I drew out on the XRP chart. And I'll probably have a new YouTube video out soon to kind of round out a little bit more. But at this time, I need to get through this weekend. I think this weekend into Monday is going to be very important energetically. So definitely everyone, if you're one of those people that's been hurting for you the past couple of weeks, I think the extreme volatility is gonna reduce soon. Like, I don't think we're going to have as much of this chaos anymore. And I think this update today with China and how the markets are like don't care at all is a sign. We're going to start to see that. And it's unpopular for me to say, but I do think this Trump becoming a hero thing is coming soon. Like, I
Mhm.
think they're going to flip the script real fast, and that May 5th date is probably perfectly timed for something to go down.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And I just want to say that for anybody who's considering, where can I get more education? Waters Above is somebody that I will recommend and will continue to recommend. I can't speak personally. I've never taken any of your courses, but just what I learned from you in your free content was enough for me to profit pretty well. And I'm just waiting for our regulations to get set here in the US so I can start trading futures again. But once again, for folks that are looking for a level-headed mindset and for somebody who can give you real analysis, a real education, I can't recommend many people in this space, but Jordan with his platform here is definitely one of them. And so I'm going to link up stuff down below, all of your links. Can you just give me a quick rundown now? You have the university, but I know you've had other courses and programs before. So can you just give us the quick rundown of what all is available right now?
Sure. I really appreciate, first of all, I really appreciate you having me on. And we definitely will be reconnecting soon, and it won't be a couple of years. So I want to remind everyone of that. And as for finding my work, and probably the best place to get started, it would be over in our mastermind community because it's lowest barrier of entry. It's very, very affordable, and it unlocks a whole library of stuff beyond just what I do with a weekly podcast. So that's a really good place to get started. And if you are interested in the university, what's really great about joining our mastermind community first is you unlock the only discount that's available for the university. So this is like dual pronged in a sense where you get the crypto TA stuff. You're kept up to date with what I'm doing with my investments too. So whenever I'm buying or selling, I share that over on my Patreon. And then if you wanted to join the university, you're getting everything that's going on over there. And it also includes a course within that university. So kind of covers all the bases of all my work. And I believe it's incredibly reasonably priced because the university is a 1 year. What you get is a full year for access and also a lifetime access to the course that's included. Um, so yeah, that'll be over at patreon.com/watersabove. And you could get started. I will have a new podcast out, by the way, this Sunday. So I'll be recapping everything that's gone on in these markets and setting everyone up for what I think is going to happen a week ahead. And you guys here got a sneak peek because I shared some things that I have yet to talk about on my Patreon in today's interview.
Yeah, I love it, man. This has been another great session. We'll do it again soon. Everybody, I'm going to link it up down below. Go check him out if you haven't already. I know that my community, a lot of us love your work. And even for those that don't, the beautiful thing here is that me and Jordan, we just come here and we put in the effort every day to share our thesis, to share our program. And it's up to you to decide whether you vibe or not. And one thing that I just will always appreciate, brother, is how you've stayed the course. Can't say that about everybody that have kind of come and gone, the fair weather fans, right?
Yeah,
And
man.
you stay true always. So thank you for that. Thank you for coming on the show again today. And on the way out, everybody, if you could just like this video, if you're new here, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our content. And all of my community resources are available at zachrector.com. Thanks again, Jordan.
Appreciate you, brother. Much love.
All right. Everybody take care out there. We'll see you in the next one.